If you've watched all my Delta Rain preview videos, you're probably disappointed that I haven't made any jokes about raining on someone's parade. Get it? Because rain and rain are synonyms? Anyway, you know I can't blow my entire load this early, especially for a set that's not out for another 13 weeks. But that's the point I'm trying to make. While Delta Rain is 90-ish days away, we have 30th celebration next month. This throws the early Japanese Delta Rain results out of whack. We can largely ignore them since there will be an extra 128 cards in Standard once we get our supple Lotion feed on Mega Ray. I singled out Rayquaza because, as you probably could have guessed in a set that's largely disappointing, it's the only new deck to make a splash. We're just under 1 week into Japan's Delta Rain format that we'll never actually see, and after 3 days it represented 10% of the meta. I've already talked about how Japan's tougher city leagues are on hold until September, meaning it's the less competitive gym battles taking place right now, which can have as little as 4 players. Plus, Rayquaza is the new hotness. Of course, people are going to test out what Pokemon tries to trick us into believing is actually strong. Before I dive feet first into the various Mega Ray lists, out of the 76 new Storm Emeralda cards in Japan, only 3 have really made an impact. Of course, we have Slifer the Sky Dragon alongside Talonflame EX and Legendary Lava Lake. And that's pretty much it. I'll still talk about anything that's done anything, but outside of these 3, very little has changed. As a quick reminder, Mega Rayquaza is very similar to Raging Bolt. They both want a lot of energy in play and can take big one-hit KOs as a result. The difference with Ray is that the energy doesn't have to be discarded. Storm Emeralda is 50 times the amount of energy attached to all of your Pokemon, and it requires 3 energy to attack, not 2. And it only counts fire and lightning, not any. And it gives up 3 prizes instead of 2. And it has a weakness. But its ability can accelerate in energy provided there's one in the top 4 cards of your deck. And it does have 40 extra hit points, which is something, I guess. The main way to play Mega Ray is similar to what I theorized. It's a colorless dragon that requires 2 different types of energy to attack. Using a combination of Crispin, Glass Trumpet, and the Champion's Roar ability, you can be dealing 200 damage regularly on turn 1. Which is kinda disappointing when Raging Bolt can do 210, a much better number. So like when my stepsister gets stuck in the dryer trying to fish out her Vaporeon onesie that I'm surprised she still uses because there's 2 holes in the back, help is needed. Ethan's Ho-Oh is perfect here. Its ability accelerates up to 2 fire energy from hand to itself. Adventuring Lantern can find a fire and lightning, and Energy Switch can move on to Rayquaza. So Ho-Oh builds up damage while simultaneously offering up a way to get energy on Ray. But you might not always be using Energy Switch for that purpose. I won't say I was wrong about Talonflame. Instead, I'll simply mention that I can't do math properly, because 2 plus 3 plus 3 equals 6 when it comes to prize cards. So I merely underestimated how useful Talonflame could be in a Mega-focused deck. Provided either of your colorless Megas are in play, you can take the Stage 2 from hand and put it directly onto your bench. Since it's also a colorless type, Talonflame has access to Glass Trumpet and can utilize Crispin and Energy Switch as well. This is important because Claw Hunt takes 2 colorless and deals 150 damage grabbing any 2 cards from deck. So you can prep yourself for an amazing next turn. Unless you just knocked out a Badoo with Claw Hunt and the Dragapult player managed to find Unfair Stamp, which they always do, and completely ruin your entire life. But avoiding that situation will leave you in a great position. Additionally, since you already have to run a Terra for Glass Trumpet, Area 0 makes an appearance. Meowth ensures a turn 1 supporter like Cyrano to find Latias and Ho-Oh and Talonflame. Or if you have the nuts, a Crispin to attack. But then it becomes a liability, which is where Chen Pao comes in. Expand your bench with Area 0, then bump it with Sadie Saint for moving Meowth or anybody else. And yes, I do realize that pretty much everything I'm explaining is essentially just Raging Bolt with extra steps. And even more, yes, I realize that someone bossing past Talonflame to get to a colorless Mega means they can win the game in 2 turns, not 3. But this might be the only time Mega Ray sees the top tier, so I'm going to take advantage of it. To quickly preface things, there's no singular perfect Mega Ray list. What you're seeing right now is simply the core 60 you can build upon. Everything you need to succeed is here, you just might want to swap out Lily and Kieran from our Cyrano. And 10 Fire might be better, removing 1 copy of Adventuring Lantern. To give you an idea just how varied every Mega Ray list is, these are all the gym battle winners from Monday or the 4th day of Delta Rain in Japan compiled by Pokecallbook. One went with Noctowl as the card finder engine, another ran Legendary Lava Lake to try and stop your cloak, some landed on a more even split of fire and lightning energy, and somebody even attempted Iono's Belly Bolt, which is wild given how Raging Belly Bolt hasn't done much. What I'm trying to get at is we're still in the figuring you out stage of this relationship. While we can clearly see how attractive Mega Ray is, he doesn't have an Instagram account, so we're not sure if he's actually this cool or actually a psychopath who thinks Zacian is a better legendary than Zamazenta. Despite all the various options, including swapping out Prime Catcher for Unfair Stamp since Talonflame can find it with Claw Hunt, a core has emerged from the deck. Along with Meowth and Latias and Pheasantipity, these are the cards you should build around. I'm not going to say I hate it and that Ray will drop harder than Mega Starmie in a week or two. I'm just going to say that Raging Bolt is better, and Crispin, Glass Trumpet, Area Zero, and Latias all rotate 4-ish months after Ray releases. Still, despite my deserved skepticism, at least through the first couple of days this week, Ray has actually risen in the rankings, surpassing Dragapult. So maybe for the first time ever, I'll be wrong about an upcoming card. Naturally, the next best place for Talonflame EX is in Raging Bolt, reinforcing the idea that Mega Ray is just Giraffe Raikou with another name. Basically, if the deck runs Mega Kangaskhan, Talonflame can be slotted in, whether it's a single copy or two. Crispin immediately powers it up, where an Ogerpon Acceleration plus Energy Switch and a manual attachment can have it ready to hunt. As a Mega Magnetric believer though, I am a little worried that our two best new cards in Delta Rain are both weak to Lightning, but if Talonflame survives, it really can set you up for the rest of the game. And if you missed my previous video, since Talonflame's ability activates while in your hand, Watchtower doesn't shut it off. The list should look familiar to any Raging Bolt or Ogerpon Clefairy player. On the Raging Bolt side, well, it's still Raging Bolt. Crispin gets 2 energy on the field, Ogerpon adds more, and Energy Switch allows you to pick and choose your attackers. Talonflame simply offers up something to do turn 1 that doesn't involve discarding energy from play, while also grabbing any 2 cards from deck and potentially taking a KO. Which could be a bad thing since, unfair stamp is everywhere. For Ogerpon Clefairy, several lists were exactly what you'd expect, chucking in just a single copy of Talonflame for added consistency. But then there were a couple crazy people who realized that Talonflame can find both pieces of Lava Lake. I'm not sure this version will take off. If I have to include the lake, I'd much rather YOLO it with just one of each side and have 2 extra cards to make my first turn stronger. Regardless of what the final list looked like though, Talonflame appears to be the buttbone of Mega Ray decks right now. And it can even help Raging Bolt and Teal Masked Ogerpon before they rotate 4 months after Delta Rain launches. While Bastiodon and Pitch Black didn't quite take Ironthorn's EX to new heights, Legendary Lava Lake could be exactly what it needs to frustrate players one last time before all the H-Block cards leave in March. Get the new Dual Stadium down, every evolution Pokemon in play loses its ability. Paired with Ironthorns in the active, shutting off all EX abilities, the only ability they'll have left is crying and pooping their pants like a little baby. Or, basic non-EXs like Munkidori and Lunatone. But look at some of the evolved non-EXs that now lose their abilities. Dracloak can't draw cards, Dusknoir can't blow its load, and Thwackey is pretty much useless. This does lead me to the major negative about these dual stadiums, which is they can get easily bumped. Most decks play at least 2 stadiums. And in the case of Festival Lead, they can slap one of their 4 Festival Grounds onto the table, have access to all their abilities, and knock out an Ironthorns in one turn. Not to mention Jamming Tower and Risty Ruins and Academy at Night and Battle Cage are all heavily played with Cypher Maniac and Colress and Petrol able to find them. So as strong as Lava Lake can be, it's easy to counter and not exactly easy to set up since you need both pieces in hand at the same time. Despite all this, a foursome of Ironthorns lists won gym battles utilizing the lake. However, things are a little different than you might suspect. Because a Rune is such a good card here, getting 3 in combination of stadiums and supporters, Crispin takes a back seat. So Crushing Hammer becomes super important to slow down their setup. After all, Blaziken can't reattach lost energy when Ironthorns is in the active. Aside from that minor change though, things are relatively what you'd expect. Mist Energy blocks Alakazam and Desperation Munkidori Confusion, Voltaic boosts damage, the Ice Cream heals after someone in the comments calls you a boomer for making an obscure South Park reference, and Hero's Tape boosts your hit points to 330. Looking at one of the lists, I still think you want Crispin at least as an option, because not attacking until turn 3 seems like you're gonna have a bad time. You can also focus less on a Rune and more on Crispin with something like this, which also plays Hand Trimmer and Zerosic because you only have 4 basics and carry mulliganing is highly likely. On top of Ironthorns, the other user of Lava Lake is Mega Lucario. It makes sense. Take out Hariyama, that's 4 slots you gain. Skinny dip in the Lava Lake like Golem and every evolution loses its ability. Without Harry Mama, your deck has no evolutions with abilities, but thanks to Lunatone and Solrock, you still have plenty of card draw. The non-Lava Lake build of Lucario is seeing a bit more success, but this version still makes up about 30 to 40% of the wins. And if you want the most basic, straightforward list, this is it. I definitely would want Meowth or Pheasantipity as a safety precaution, but if the lake sticks, you're still going to get destroyed because don't forget that Mew EX is out in 30th Celebration. Yeah, despite Lucario seeing a resurgence in Japan, Mew EX next month gives every deck a way to hit it for weakness. So by the time Delta Rain is out in English, the worst card in history for fighting decks will exist. Still, to comfort you for now, think about how funny it will be to one-shot a Mega Rayquaza with his Pinkerchin, who I might add can hit Ray for triple weakness if you have both Volbeat and Illumise from 30th Celebration in play as well. Now we come to the best of the rest, which is mostly just the rest. I firmly believe Mega Golurk will do something at some point, even if it ends up being a worse Mega Chandelure. We just have to wait until Mew in 30th Celebration next month, which can copy Goliath Punch for 300 damage and 2 Psychic, bypassing the need for 10 cards in hand. For now, it's not really worth talking about. Yes, a couple lists won in Gym Battle. This first one ran 4 copies of Legendary Lava Lake, or I guess 2 of each side to turn off Golurk's ability. Banette and Arun helped find the pieces, which seems like a lot of work. We also had a Dunsparce build, which seems weird given that Lava Lake shuts off its ability, meaning you have to use your brain to know when to play it properly. Regardless, I wouldn't put too much stock in these early results since Golurk hasn't even reached its final form yet. Somebody who's somehow done even less is Mega Malamar. I get it. A grass weakness is rough in a Festival lead world, but blow their flute a couple times and you can be dealing 350 damage for 2 darkness. Instead, though, the only winning list from the first weekend inexplicably paired it with Hide and Sneak because the world is a weird place. A couple days later, the actual way to play Malamar did win in Gym Battle. Toxtricity accelerates energy, Munkidori heals, and Pecharunt switches while also offering up a strong backup attacker at the end of a game. I'm sure Malamar lists will evolve over the next few months. 3 Toxtricity seems a bit much, especially when Malamar only needs 2 energy. Janine plus a couple energy switch could be enough to carry you to victory. Otherwise, if the Toxtricity build sticks, I imagine we'll need a single prizer like Brute Bonnet or Seviper to actually see success here. Another Mega that will get slightly boosted by the arrival of Mew EX, Mega Golisopod has done slightly better than the previous 2. And by slightly, I mean it saw 6 Gym Battle wins, which is a fraction of the success Mega Ray saw. Anyway, the card was always going to be playable. 220 damage for a single energy if they have a damage counter on them already. That's enough to finish a lot of people you're blowing. But it comes up well short on Dragapult and isn't super useful against Slowking or Festival Lead who can destroy you with minimal effort. The first 3 winners went the boring route and all chose Munkidori as the main damage spreader. Obviously, Patrat is a huge problem and Dragapult Blaziken is an unwinnable matchup. Still, if things go well, you can Wally's a growing grass Golisopod, meaning they have to deal at least 360 damage to knock it out. And while Legacy Energy seems like the best ace spec, Deluxe Bomb is a funny one, putting big things like Dragapult in range. Unless they, run Jamming Tower. While all lists featured Munkidori, the partners varied. Megas Frostlats and Starmie also attack for a single energy and have access to Wallies for maximum annoyance. Not to mention Baby Frostlats can activate Finishing Blow's extra power. Plus, if you run Water Energy, the Baby Golisopod becomes an option. Though, the opportunities for its immunity attack will be scarce since it only does 30 damage. What y'all be seeing here right now is the Starmie version, but you can swap that line out for Frostlats and it's pretty much the same. More recently, though, our Boliva has been the partner of choice, with one list slipping in a single Cacturn like a finger when the toilet paper rips. I think one of my main issues with this version is that Beedrill does the same amount of damage with just 2 Beedrill in play, and 3 means Dragapult is one-shot. Yes, Golisopod is a stage 1 with more hit points, but going with our Boliva means you have to do more math than simply counting to 4. And that's a huge negative in my book. Regardless, this is one of those lists. Force to Vitality allows you to have an insane turn 2, while Hill defines your energy. Both Golisopod and Arboliva have 3 energy attacks to deal 160 damage, meaning Ignition does have a use here. Ultimately, I'm not going to dismiss Golisopod. It is a wholly playable Mega that will win games, most likely through healing and math. It's just that it might be a top 30 deck where another Grass-type EX who hits for a single energy is top 20. This is weirder than Stantler's Evolution. Remember when I highlighted Meowscarada EX, the one Mega Starter deck card with some potential? Well, turns out I undersold the cat because it has 2 Gym Battle wins under its floral belt. Keeping in mind that it might not actually be in Delta Rain and we have to wait for official confirmation, Meowscarada deals 120 damage to their active plus 120 to someone on their bench who's already hurt. With a cost of 2 grass, I thought it'd be too off-type for the best partners. Well, I was wrong. Somebody jammed a 2-1-2 line into Kangaskhan Absol. Which seems cool until you remember gym battles can feature less players than toes you have on your foot. This was the other list going the Dragapult Neo Upper route. Listen, we know this isn't actually going to be meta relevant, but maybe I can get a YouTube video out of it. And at the end of the day, that's all that really matters. Finally, someone was crazy enough to rub their lamp super hard in front of other people, winning a gym battle with the Genies. I understand you can sneak some wins with this deck because there are some good matchups. If you only face Dragapult and can power up an Amorous a few times with Clefairy in play, that could be a victory. Landorus also feasts on Fez and Meowth, while Tornadus is just a good turn 1 attacker, drawing up to 6 cards for free. Add in Prism Energy to attack with everybody, plus Moltres for grass decks, and you have a deck of 60 cards with some synergy. It's just that a turn 1 Precious Trolley is almost 100% necessary to get every Genie in play, with Latias EX allowing you to retreat into Tornadus. and you're going to struggle mightily against almost every single prize deck out there. But that won't stop me from including this in my road decks video come late October, because if I squint my eyes hard enough, I can almost see this being playable. Oh, and if you're wondering, no, Bug Out hasn't done anything yet. Where Hide and Sneak can get by with as few as 6 or 7 sneakers if you forego Spiritomb, Bug Out likely requires 20 to 24 slots devoted to Pokemon. And if you aren't careful, you might end up discarding all your bosses and lilies. So it shouldn't be too surprising this hasn't been the second coming of United Wangs or Mad Party. I'll also mention that one of my nightmares has come true. No, not the one where everyone has hands for feet. Somebody won a gym battle pairing Komodo with Mega Dragonite. Before I show you the baffling list, just remember that Komodo can accelerate all basic energy in the top 6 cards of your deck to your dragons, so Dragonite discarding 2 every turn isn't a big deal. As a result, you might be entertaining the idea of playing this, but then you look at the list, see it as just 2 Petrol, 2 Lily, and 2 Judge, and you know this has no chance of actually working. Realistically, what you can take away from the first 5 days of Delta Reign in Japan is that Japanese players all fell under a collective delusion that Mega Ray is good and will do the hard work finding out for us that it's not. But if Rayquaza does end up being a tier 1 deck, everyone will just start running Painterchin because the designers had the forethought to already give us a counter to the strong new multiprizer. Also, Talonflame EX has exceeded the hype people I ignored gave it, and Legendary Lava Lake might present some issues like it's a Delibird with a broken wing. Aside from those, though, the rest of Delta Reign is looking like booty cheeks, with just 6 or 7 cards actually appearing strong. Thankfully, 30th Celebration, and more specifically Mew EX, will help several cards rise in playability, including multiple Megas. So it almost makes you wonder why I made this video, and why you watched it, since all of these very early results will be completely invalidated by the fact that a brand new set launches between now and when we receive Delta Reign on November 5th.